Hey, Patrick.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Is that a poster back there, or is that your actual chalkboard?
Yeah, chalkboard for the project we are working
Is your project about calligraphy?
on. No, it's not.
Hmm.
By a friend of ours. It's not.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Great background. I know there's at least one other coming. That would be Jacob Rief. He's a pretty regular,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe we'll have some others as well. I don't have anything in particular to talk about. I was going to kind of just chat about the sitemaps screencast I did recently.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Not yet.
Okay.
I've seen the post, but not the video. So,
How about you? You have anything that you can share with us?
actually, no. I'm still at work, so this is why I'm
Ah,
this
okay.
close.
And you're located in Belgium?
No, I'm Italy.
In Italy? Okay, yeah. Hi, Jacob.
Hi. Hi. Hi, Marcus.
How you doing? Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, was busy with other stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I have a project that may require shop stuff coming up, so I'm glad you're here. I wanted to just quickly ask you, um, is shop currently like runnable against latest versions of CMS?
What? Sharp.
Shop, Django Shop.
Django shop. Um, it's runnable against. So yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
I have a shop which is runnable against that.
Is it the master branch or some other branch?
It's my private one. It's that
Oh,
one which I'm going to merge next week.
awesome. Okay, cool. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Super. So I think this is all that RSVP'd. In fact, Patrick didn't even respond to the RSVP. He just magically appeared here. Um, and I was just explaining, I don't really have any specific topics to cover off. I do, oh, we have another one, Paulo Roberto. Hi, Paulo. Your microphone is muted. Is that intentional? No mic. Okay, well, no mic then. So anyway, like I said, I don't have any specific topics, except I just wanted to draw attention to a recent screencast I published, which is about sitemaps. Now, I'm sure some of you who use Django CMS a lot probably use sitemaps quite a bit and probably don't care to look at them. However, there's a couple of topics in there that might be interesting to even some of you veterans. In particular, how to do sitemaps for app hooks that are translated. Um, if you don't take some special steps, then you'll just get your default language URLs in your sitemap, and that's not going to be good for your SEO. So there is a technique to get those in there. The other thing is I show a little bit about how I use sitemaps over and above their original intended purpose. So in general, I see that the URL resolver subsystem of Django is wonderful, but it does lack in one specific area, and that is in producing a list of all valid URLs for your site. Sitemaps fills that gap, and once you have that up and running, there are some other things you can do with your sitemaps. So in particular, what I do with them is I have a little special tool that I've open sourced, Sisu Cache Tools, which uses sitemaps to pre-cache all of your content. So most of you probably use memcache on your project, and after you deploy a change, you might want to go ahead and put your best foot forward with respect to performance and go ahead and pre-cache everything so that your memcache is repopulated. And that's one of the things that Sisu Cache Tools can do, leveraging your sitemaps. And we have another joiner, and that would be Tobias. Hello, Tobias. Do you have a working mic today?
Hello, yes, I think so. Do you hear
Ah,
me?
we do. Awesome.
Yeah, nice. It's my first hangout. I'm late to the hangout show.
No, that's fine. And welcome to the Hangouts. We have a couple of veterans here. You and looks like Paulo. I think, Paulo, is this your first Hangout to join? Django CMS Show and Tell? Paulo doesn't have a working mic, so I think he'll probably reply by text if he does at all. Anyway, so welcome everybody. And like I said, I don't have any specific topics, so hopefully one of you guys have something you're working on that would be cool and might want to share with us. Um, Jacob, you usually have something. You have something today?
No, the only thing which I finished was the the final version of the API for Cascade. Fortunately, a company in Germany funded some development, and I was able to add really a lot of stuff, and it now has a really nice API.
Awesome.
But I've shown it already too often, and therefore I don't think it's worthwhile to
Okay.
show it again.
Now I did notice that you posted on the forum recently on the community page about your latest changes. Has it changed since then?
No, since then it didn't change anymore.
Okay.
And I think now I have a stable API, which should be which should continue to live like that.
Well, it sounds like you have at least one customer who's using it, so you'll probably want to keep it at that API for some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. And therefore I added quite a lot of effort to not have to break it to not have to break it again.
Excellent. Excellent. Stable APIs is always a good thing. Okay. Does anybody, have anything that they're working on that they'd like to share? Patrick, you got something? Not today. Okay. Tobias, do you have any projects that you've been working on that you maybe like to share with us and show us what you've been working on?
I think I have nothing to share because I'm just diving in and trying to get a grasp of it. Yeah, I wanted to build something better for my customers so that it's easier to enter their content, and I thought Django CMS is the right direction.
Well, can I ask what you currently use for your customers?
Drupal, mostly Drupal, sometimes WordPress.
Okay, I'm a Drupal, a recovering Drupal user as well. And about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago now, I discovered Django CMS. Actually, I was forced to use Django CMS by a customer who was demanding that I use Django, and I had never touched Python, and therefore I've never touched Django before that time. And I jumped in and I loved every second of it. I'm so happy I'm not dealing with PHP anymore.
Yeah, it has been great so far. I think it's sometimes hard to dive in because it's much easier to get plugins with Drupal. You can start easier, so you have to really want to dive in. It's easier to start, I think, in Drupal.
Well, the beautiful thing about Django is that if you need a plugin, it'll probably take you a half hour to write it. So, in my experience with Drupal is that there is quite a bit of an existing base of plugins in the Drupal website. But most of the things that they have are repeats and or things that you could create in Django, within 30 to 45 minutes probably.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So just, and I know the rest of you probably don't want to hear, anything more about Drupal, but just so you'll know, Tobias, I had a customer about 4 years ago. I had built a site for them, a pretty, it's a pretty basic but substantial website for a good customer, and it was all in Drupal, and that end of life version 6. And so when the client came to us and said, hey, we'd like to add that newsroom feature that you talked about 4 years ago, and we gave them a price tag, let's call it X. And what we did is we said, hey, listen, you know, your Drupal installation is at end of life. We'd have to upgrade the whole subsystem, and it would take some time. But also, we'd like to switch you over to Django CMS. And we were able to convert the whole site from Drupal to Django CMS and build the newsroom that they needed for the same price that we quoted just the newsroom 4 years prior in Drupal. And the result was they had a website that was literally 800 times more performant. Now, you know, I'm adding all that into the Django bucket, but the fact of the matter is we added memcache and some other front-end performance stuff. But it was a huge win for that customer, and hopefully you'll find the same kind of experience when you do your projects with your customer.
I think it will happen. I just have to get more used to it, and I'm toying around. I think I'm going to do a site for a friend just to try it out, to have a real project, and yeah, I think this will be my direction.
Super.
Because I also like the way, you know, deployment Drupal sucks. You can't reuse anything, and yeah.
Yeah.
Martin,
Yeah.
may I just say something? If I hear what people say here, maybe I should do a small demo from the Cascade plugin, so that because you have never used it up to now.
I have used it.
You have used it.
Yeah.
You have used the old version.
It was an older version. I mean, it doesn't have the latest changes in it. I don't know if you've seen the hash cache site that I built. That was all built in Cascade.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to see it.
Okay. Take it away, Jacob.
If it's not, if you don't mind.
Okay. I just switch over to my screen. Wait a second. Martin, just tell the guy something else. I'll be back in a minute. Okay?
Yeah, that's fine. What I'll do is I'll kind of introduce what Cascade is, if it's all right. So Jacob works very closely with the team at Django CMS, and in fact he is working very hard on a related project called Django Shop, which is an e-commerce platform. But Jacob also has contributed to the community something called Django Cascade, and what Django Cascade is it's kind of I think it began its life as Django Grid or Django CMS Grid or maybe one of the other ones. But basically it started its life as a way to manage Bootstrap 3 containers, right? And he's put a lot of work into it, so it's kind of wrapped all around Bootstrap 3. So if you use Bootstrap, then Cascade is something you should definitely look at, and you'll see why in a minute. And just the other thing before you get started, Jacob, is also if you are a Angular user, you're going to want to definitely check out Jacob's repo, which is Django Angular, which has not only front-end support for Angular, but also it integrates with the back end of Django to give you a smoother experience in using Angular with your Django projects. So anyway, that's the introduction for Jacob. And it looks like he's got his tea now, so.
Right. I had to drink something. Okay, I'll just share screen and then
Oh, and just one more thing before you get started, Jacob. I am experimentally attempting to record this screencast. And I don't know if it's going to work out. There's been a lot of requests for these to be recorded and put on YouTube. So don't say anything or show anything that you would regret if it was, broadcast to the world at a later date. All right?
okay.
There you go.
So no political statements or something like that. No harassment. Okay. So just just to say, currently the cascading plugin is built around Bootstrap, but it should not be too difficult to extend it to other CSS frameworks. And do you see my mouse?
We do.
Okay. And who is familiar with Bootstrap?
I know it.
Okay, great. In Bootstrap, you have a container which you can define, and I'll just show you how the integration of the container looks like. And here you can define what kind of breakpoints you want to support for your site. And normally you will support all 4 breakpoints, which are the media breakpoints used there. It's quite important to have them because Cascade then keeps track for the whole tree of the plugins down to the lowest level of what it will show, and therefore it will always know the size of the column. And that's quite important later on. I will show later on for images and pictures. And then the next hierarchical level is a row, and there you can't say, you can't do a lot. You can add some columns, but you can't delete them in here because you have to, if you want to delete them, you have to select them. I could delete one using this one here. And it only adds column. If you remove something, it just keeps them. So now this is the interesting part, and that's the column, the Bootstrap column itself. And here you see that you have you can specify a default column width, which is currently 4 units. But you could say that you want to extend it to 12 units. And then for tablets, you would use 6 units, for instance, and for laptops, you would use 4 units, and for large desktops, you would use, let it like this. And this means if you don't set it here, it just takes that from the above one here, which means that you have 12, 6, and 4 units. If I save it, I will do that for the other 3 columns we have in here, which means we have 12, then 6, and then 4. And here again. And afterwards you will see, of course you can do anything you can do with Bootstrap. You can even nest columns in other, you can even add a row to a column and then add other columns. Therefore you can nest it, and it always keeps the right size. Now what you see here is it shows you the column width, which is 12, 6, and 4 units for the different breakpoints. Now, if we go to our content side, now we see the large desktop, and if I make it smaller, now we saw the breakpoint for laptops, and now we see a switch. The switch is coming from that we now have 6, 6, and 6, and now this below here is another 6. And if I do this one here, this is now we have 12. We have 12 columns, and this is 12 columns, 12 units, and also 12 units. Well, that's not something really really special. What's nice about this here is if you look at this image in here, I'll just put it like this. If you look at the HTML code of the image, you see it's completely responsive. We have all the image sizes for the different breakpoints, and it even supports retina displays. This means that therefore you have that many different images which are delivered together with the URL. So this whole stuff here is the image tab. And if we go to edit mode, I'll just show you possibilities you have. And what things you can say is that you can adapt the width and the image height. If you say, for instance, 50%, then you save it. Then you get the image like this here. But you could even crop part of the image, so you can even put two images side by side. Something else I added was I'll just show you. Something else I added was a picture plugin, which is somehow different. I'll just take one of the. And on the picture, if you use the picture plugin, you can even do things like direction art. Have you ever seen that? If you look, this means that you can, if you have a large screen, you can show more details of the image, so it's larger. And if you have a smaller screen, you can crop the image down to the detail. That's quite important for mobile devices if you just want to show something special, but on a large screen you just want to use the whole screen and you want to just display more of it.
Mm-hmm.
This works together with the focus point on images on the image finder plugin from Django Finder plugin. And okay, so if we save it, I just leave it now like this. Otherwise, we have to fiddle around too much. And if we look at this here, we see that this now is using the picture element. The picture element has been added recently, and here again we have all the responsive image sizes, which are, we have 8 here. We have 8 different image sizes created for that. For the image. This one here is the default in case that the browser doesn't support it, but there's a JavaScript named picture fill which is able to emulate this picture tag. And I think especially for responsive images, we will often see it. Now, if I make this smaller, we now have a picture which is even resized. This is for mobile devices, and it now has this appropriate size. So if we open it here, and I have this this image size here, which is the retina, because this display is a retina display. And if I make this larger, if I open it in a new tab, no, it didn't work. But anyway, it uses the picture of the right size.
It did work, Jacob. The problem is that your browser was limiting the size to the height of your window. You just needed to click it with your magnifying glass and see the full size.
Ah, okay. Okay. Well, that's to have this working. You always have to keep track of the current column width. Therefore, you Cascade always keeps track up to the upper level. Something which is really nice. What I additionally added is to, for instance, you can say you want to remember these settings. I'll just add some settings here. Say 80 and 70 and 60, 50. And here you can adopt a zoom factor from 100, take like this, and we say crop image and upscale image. And I can say remember picture, and then these settings are remembered for a picture, so that you can and now they are stored in the database. And if you are here, you have these settings from the shared settings. It's rem picture, and then you can't even.
Great admin work. Good job.
Sorry?
Great admin work.
Here you should now not be able to.
They look disabled.
They should not be. They should be disabled.
Yeah, they look disabled.
Strange. On my screen they don't look disabled. But well, anyway.
Okay.
And you can. The nice thing about this is you can configure it. I just show you how I did it in here. If we, I just take my IDE, and if we go to the settings, just share this. We say the picture plugin should be able to save these fields, and you can just configure it which kind of fields you want to remember in the shared settings. And now, if you go to the administration and you go to shared between plugins, you have this one here, which I created before, and then you have exactly the settings which we used before. And if I change one of them, it's used globally for all the pictures which use this this settings here with that name. If I save it, it's
Oops.
well, I have to check that again. What happened here?
Sure.
Anyway, if we go to another kind of plugin, for instance, the button here, then everything changes. which means that we have a kind of polymorphic interface without using a polymorphic class. It just uses the correct form definition for each plugin. The reason why I can do it is because each plugin has only one field in the database, and that field is a big JSON field which is built on the fly whenever somebody accesses that plugin. And everything in the database is stored in that JSON field. And therefore, you can adopt it very easily, and you can even say, I want to share this and this and this field among other plugins. Then something else, which is quite useful. You can say that for these plugins here, you want to have extra fields allowed, which is that you can allow special fields, CSS fields or style fields or things like that. And if you go again to the administration, let's say we have it's here for the Bootstrap button plugin. I say that I want to allow an ID tag and to allow these extra classes and to allow margin top and a color, for instance. And this is generally the administrator can do that, so that not every designer can add any kind of extra styles to it. And you can do it on a per site and per plugin and per site. And if we have a look at one of the buttons here, then what we see in here is that we have an extra ID field. If I can add any kind of ID, so that my CSS, that I can access it through hash ID name. Then I have some extra classes in here, which I showed before. And then I have here a margin, which I can say 100 pixels. And I have and I can choose the color, which is then used for the button. And okay.
Good stuff.
And it's completely configurable through the administration. You can say through the administration that you want to allow only those fields. Now, if we check for that button, we see the color here, which is the not the outer color but the inner color. Have you seen that here?
Yeah,
So
yeah, totally.
Say red, we save it. Close the window and we save it. Then that color, the text color, converts to that one. Yeah, and
Great work, Jacob. And it's really come along a great distance since the last time I've seen it. I do have to say, in the last two Bootstrap projects I did, in both cases, I had to use custom column units. So, like, I have in one of them, I have 15 columns instead of 12 as the base unit, and the other one, I have.
I will switch over to this. I will switch over to so that you can see me. Okay.
Okay.
Why did you do that?
Because
would it be better to nest columns?
No, because the design made a strong use of symmetry of, well, I don't know if symmetry is the right word, but it had lots of columns of 5 and columns of 3, so it was a 15 column design. That was what the designer gave me, so I didn't really have a say in the matter. And the other project that I did recently uses a custom breakpoint in Bootstrap. And I think both of those things would make it difficult for me to use Cascade. I'm not saying that Cascade is in any way deficient. I'm just maybe suggesting that if it would be pretty nice if those two parameters could be tweaked and everything would continue to work.
I'll just show you, Martin. I'll just show you here. I will share my screen again. Wait a second. Something else you told me last time was that if you look at just share the screen so you can speak more easily about that. If you look at this template here, this one here, you see here that this placeholder, which is
I can't see anything right now. Can you others see something?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Which is the placeholder for a container. But something you could do is to use a placeholder inside. For instance, here the container is already defined from inside your template, and then you have a row, and then you have a column, and then inside that you want to use a placeholder. That's the typical setup for Django CMS project.
True.
Now the problem is that you would need the data for all the widths and what kind of breakpoints you want to use, and you have to somehow things you did before through the administration interface. Now you have to do through through some settings, and one possibility is to do it with a context variable, which you used here, and another one is to use it via a setting that you say that a special placeholder will.
Well, it looks like I could probably get close to what I need by overriding some of your templates.
That you and you have. I named it glossary. Glossary is a kind of, it's a where everything is kept inside, all the data is kept inside. And in here I have defined my breakpoints with the specific pixel size, and even for the media queries which are specified in here.
Okay, so it looks like I could add an extra breakpoint in my Bootstrap implementation and then mirror those settings here in the glossary.
That would be possible, yes.
Now the one thing that okay, so I think this will probably get us a great deal along the way, but I noticed that when you were setting up your container, you had some icons representing each of the breakpoints, and you also have names, common names. So you had mobile, tablet, small desktop, large desktop, or something. I think that would break.
If you remove, I can just show on this on here. If I remove one of them, let's say we remove these ones and I save it, then everything should now break up, and now our column has much less options to choose.
Right.
Because now we have the default column width is now for all devices narrower than 1200 pixels.
Right.
Which is this here, and the next, which is And the next is for laptops, which is here for desktop, which is wider than 1200 pixels. You could even go a step further and just remove, let's say, all breakpoints except the smallest one, and then our columns will. Oops.
Uh-oh.
No.
This is the best way to find bugs, by the way, is to do a demo.
Well,
It's okay, Jacob. I know this is a work in progress, and the pace at which you're adding stuff to this has been phenomenal. So great job, and I will I will definitely give this another look when I have a project that does not require any custom, variables or settings inside Bootstrap as a first go, and then probably I'll feel comfortable about how I would modify the templates and/or the settings to suit anything. Great demo and great project, and I look forward to seeing that continue along its path.
Yeah, it looks really nice. Thank you for demoing.
yeah, and it should be something I really would like to emphasize is that it's much easier to that it's much easier to write plugins because you don't have to fiddle around with the database. I can just show the plugin for instance, for the carousel. Wait a minute. So I have to share screens again.
While you're doing that, I just want to announce to the newcomers that have come into the room, welcome and thanks for coming. I'm experimentally doing a screen recording of this a screencast, and I hope to share it on YouTube if it comes out well. So please don't say or write or do anything that you wouldn't want to see other people see on YouTube. Just a public service announcement.
Okay. In here is the Carousel plugin, and unfortunately now I screwed the database, and I need some sanitizing to sanitize it. You define your whole data model through this here, which is practically the glossary field is our big JSON field, and it has this different different widgets, and that's everything you have to define. You don't have to do any database migrations and add additional columns to the database and so on. So it's quite easy to extend your model if you need additional fields, and it's
Jacob, I know there's a lot of people out there who are actively trying to use, NoSQL technologies, MongoDB, etc., with Django, and I think that your work here might be very interesting to them. You might try to reach out to them and see if you can get together. I mean, it seems to me that if a lot more parts of the CMS and Django in general use this sort of database interaction, then using something like MongoDB would be a piece of cake, right? Because you're not relying so much on the ORM at all, and I think you could probably have a very simple ORM replacement that would interface with MongoDB and work very nicely with your JSON fields.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not opposing relational databases, but I really like the good part from both sides.
Sure.
And therefore, JSON fields have been an addition to the Postgres database recently. Therefore, having unstructured data inside your database is quite common nowadays. and this is a perfect fit for it because you don't have to do any heavy indexing on it.
So are you using Postgres for this project here?
For this project, I use SQLite.
Oh, right, okay.
For during development, I prefer SQLite.
Sure.
Because, but on production systems, I always use Postgres or sometimes MySQL.
I'm always using MySQL, and now that Python 3 is becoming more and more used, I'm a little bit queasy about using some of the MySQL connectors because of the licensing of them, and so I'm looking a lot harder at Postgres. And I may pick your brain soon just to get a a primer on using Postgres in a Django environment. But that'll be, another time, obviously.
Okay.
Well, super. So, any of the newcomers that have come, do you have anything you want to share with the group?
May I ask something else? I have a question about if we can do a test for another project which doesn't have to do anything with Django, it has to do with Django, but not with the Django CMS. That would be, I just would like to test something. If it works for, how many are we now?
7.
7. If it works for all of us together, because maybe I could pretend. It's just this URL here.
Oh, is this your Django Angular thing?
No, it's not for Django Angular. It's still another project I did. WebSockets on Django. And so,
looks like it's working.
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay, and it should be, you see it?
Yeah, I'm seeing all of it coming through. It'd be cool if you had the return key on the field would automatically send the content.
Yeah, that's an interface here. So all 7 of us, it all worked for all of us, all 7.
Looks like it.
Okay. I just wanted to test if all the browsers can handle WebSocket just out of the box and so on. Okay.
Well, I'm using Chrome.
Yeah.
I'm using Firefox.
Okay. Now I tested it with all of them except Internet Explorer because I don't have any Windows here. Okay, great.
Super. Okay. Let's see what else is going on. Just so you guys know, I'm just going to give you a kind of report from the core developers for CMS. There's been a lot of activity in recent weeks around just kind of us getting our processes in order and so on and so forth. Now, I believe we have a new release slated for coming out in the next 7 days or so, which would be Django CMS 3.0.8. And then I believe once that comes out, I think we're going to do a strong push towards a 3.1 beta. I don't have a timetable for that, but I would expect that we'll have a 3.09 before we release 3.1, but we're going to be pushing hard for a 3.1. And for those of you who are not familiar with what's going on in 3.1 is we have replaced Django MPTT with Django Treebeard, and what we've noticed is we fixed a lot of internal bugs, internal being Django CMS bugs along the way, and we've also implemented a whole lot of tests that are more accurately testing things. And the end result is that we have a much more stable experience with respect to the tree of the pages, and also I noticed it's visually faster. So it'll be a nice it's more stable and faster. So it's a win-win-win. The other thing is we have changed the way that you add plugins. So some of you may have noticed that when you add a plugin and then you change your mind and you want to just forget about that, you don't want to actually save it. Well, when you close the dialog, you're asked if you want to delete the plugin even though you haven't really saved it yet. And that's because unlike almost everything else in the CMS, when you create a plugin, it has to basically write it to the database before you can start doing anything else with it. And it's been inconsistent, and it's something that's been bugging us. So we have fixed that. So now when you create a plugin, it doesn't exist until you actually save it. So that's going to be also going to help out a lot with potential tree traversal issues, and that's one of the reasons why we have fix. One of the management commands that we have is fix MPTT. That's been replaced, I think, with something like fix treebeard. I guess, I don't know. But the use case for that has been substantially reduced. I don't think that people will ever have to use that management command. In fact, we may not even have it anymore. There's a number of other changes in, supporting Django 1.7. We're really embracing Django 1.7 and the new migration system. We'll continue to support, of course, the old styles probably until 1.8, or at least until, well, through 1.8. Probably we'll continue to support the old style south migrations until 1.9 of Django, I guess. But trying to think of what else. So we think, in all the projects that I do, I'm using 3.1 already, and just because I want to see if it's suitable for production, and I've had nothing but great experiences with it. So if you guys are feeling a little adventurous, I would encourage you to go ahead and try 3.1 and let us know if you find any issues with it. I don't think you will, but there have been some big changes underneath the hood, and we need to test all the different scenarios. What else? I know that there's a DjangoCon coming up in Cardiff. Is anybody going to make it to that? Fantastic. I haven't committed if I'm going to go or not yet, but knowing that some of you guys are going to be there, it might be a nice perk to get me over the edge. I've heard, if you haven't booked a hotel yet, I strongly recommend that you do so ASAP. The reason is because apparently on the same weekend that this is happening, One Direction have announced that their only show for their 2015 World Tour is going to be in Cardiff at the same time. So there's only apparently 8,000 hotel beds in Cardiff, and I'm sure those are going to get snapped up really quickly with One Direction fans. So if you are going to go and you need a hotel, I strongly recommend you book it ASAP.
I'm not sure if they will change the dates.
You think One Direction will change the dates?
The Django Conference.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so much preparation going behind the scenes to get that going. I don't know if they're going to change the dates. Although, it could be. I don't know.
What kind of event was the other one you were speaking about?
Other one what?
You said that there's a Django conference in Cardiff, but there's something else.
Yeah, One Direction is a band. It's a boy band in England.
Ah, One Direction. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And
Had the wrong stuff on your clipboard, Patrick?
yes.
I can see what you're working on now. Dates. Anyway, so yeah, there you go.
Martin, just one question about, I've seen on the chat there was a problem with Daniele Eveldam and somebody else, I don't remember his name, about the correct spelling. Well, you have both passports. You have British and American. And what I didn't understand from Daniela's point of view was to use British spelling for software. That's something which,
Well, as an American, and I'm also British, I also thought that was a little bit unusual. It would make more sense for me if the project was using international English, which is effectively American English. But for whatever reason, the team had selected to do British English. Now, I actually may raise a concern about that because I think that the team would like to see more American projects. And if I know Americans, being one, they get a little bit queasy when they tell their customers that everything is in British English. And I think, you could say the same thing about British customers, but at the end of the day, I think the British are actually more used to that, and are a lot more acceptant of that.
I'm strictly opposing against British spelling. It's you never see any kind of any keyword, especially color. You never see in computers science stuff. You see color with OU on the end, and therefore, if you say you want to do British spelling, this really is something which should absolutely not be used, and somebody, a native English speaker, has to convince them. Hopefully.
Okay, so both Americans and the British are native English speakers, so I don't understand that last point.
Now, I absolutely prefer international spelling, which is American spelling, rather than British one.
Yeah. Well, I think that you should make your opinion known for sure if you see anybody mention. And I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll bring it up in the next meeting that we have. We have a weekly meeting with the core devs, and I'll bring it up as a concern from our user base. But I think there's actually a greater concern because like I said, I think we would like to see a more, right now we have a fairly small user base when you compare it to something like Drupal or WordPress, right? And I think we need all the help we can get. And I think that what's the word? Alienizing the American audience is probably not the best way to get a broader usership. So I think that there is a strong case already, and I don't think that we were very scientific or methodical about choosing one over the other. I think it was simply, we have a couple of British people on the team. We don't have any Americans on the team other than myself, and it was just kind of the de facto standard that we selected. But I'll push harder because I actually agree with you.
Okay.
And it's not a personal thing. It's not, being both British and American, I can't say that I feel more strongly about having, everything in American English. It's a business decision at the end of the day.
Okay, if we have an audience here, who would argue for British or American spelling?
Yeah, I think you should choose American spelling. I read it too, and I was a little surprised. I've never seen that somewhere else in software.
Yeah, in software you never see British spelling.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I promise I'll bring that up in the next meeting. We had our meeting actually today, so it'll be another week before we have it again. But I will bring it up, and hopefully we'll see some change of direction there.
Then there was an issue about moving away from jQuery on the admin interface. This was something I've seen on the IRC channel.
I'm pretty sure that I think there's going to be a lot of strong resistance to changing that. Not only would it be a lot of work, but more importantly is the the Divio team, who really are behind the standards that are used in the project, have embraced using jQuery. So I can't see them switching very soon, and therefore the core developers would probably not be willing to make the switch either. And what do you recommend we switch to? I presume it's Angular?
I would, yeah, of course. I'm a big Angular fan, but I've seen somebody else proposed React.js.
Yeah, I think in addition to the argument I just made, I think we also find that most of our user base are at least familiar with jQuery, and so it's more likely to hit the right buttons for our users.
Okay.
But noted, and if anybody asks, I will definitely let them know that there is some opinions out there that we should move away. And as you said, it was already brought up in the IRC. By the way, for some of you newcomers to both these Hangouts and to the CMS, one of the best ways to stay in touch with the community, in addition to the Google Plus community, is the IRC channel, Django-CMS. If you're not familiar with IRC, it's not as difficult as you might think. It's actually pretty straightforward. Get a client for your computer, and it's easy. And then we'll see you on the IRC channel. I'm just going to type it into this chat window here. It's just Django CMS. Oops, what's going on? Django CMS. Hey, I can't type for some reason. Oh, I see why. Nope, I don't. For some reason, I can't type. Anyway, so yeah, if I hope to see all of you in the IRC channel. If you're looking for me, I'm just M. Koisten in my name. I don't have any whiz bang handle or anything. There you go. Thank you. Let's see what else. If there's any other news, I mean, I can't think of any other than I really think that we're getting well poised to move quickly in the near future. Not only are we getting our internal processes sorted, you may have noticed already we've had tremendous progress with getting the documentation a little bit more up to scratch, save for the British English thing. And I think with the new processes in place, I think we're going to see more rapid development. And we are always looking for good developers to join the core team. So if you are interested, and I would recommend that you just jump in and grab some pull requests, grab some issues, and submit some pull requests, and do that consistently. And we'd love the help, first of all, and secondly, you'll have a chance to shape the product that you're using anyway. And thirdly, if we see good quality code and a commitment from your side, we probably would welcome you to the core team. Just so you guys know, I can unequivocally say I am the least talented person on the team. I have no qualms at all about saying that. And the only reason I'm on the team is probably just because of the sheer number of commits that I've made over the last 2.5 years. And probably doing these community talks probably helps too. But so there you go. If you had an interest in it, I'd say it's not as hard to get to be part of the team. We have a couple of core Django developers on the core team. Daniela is one of them. You might see him in the IRC channel as the Evil DMP. He's a core Django developer as well, and so that's always helpful because we have kind of a direct line into the Django team. Anyway, I don't have anything else to share. Does anybody else have any final thoughts or questions?
Well, the only stuff which still remains is whenever the main tree will be changed so that we don't have a one-to-one relation between nodes and pages, but that we have a one-to-many relation between nodes and pages.
Or a many-to-many relation would be nice.
Many-to-many, yes.
Yeah.
We should have a many-to-many, yes.
Yeah, to be honest, since our last call, since our last hangout here, I haven't seen any progress on that front. And I think it's just because it's beyond, that would be something that we do even beyond 3.1. So right now, I think we're really trying to get, right now we're in this kind of funny position where we're sitting between two stools, right? We've had a great run with 3.0 and it's still working really well. But as you may have noticed, we've moved that to the support branch with the intention that we would already be on 3.1 shortly afterwards. But we're still not ready to launch 3.1. So we're kind of sitting between two stools right now, where we have 3.0 sitting in support, which it shouldn't be, and we have 3.1 sitting on the develop line. So what we want to do is really get on top of 3.0, continue to develop it in terms of stability and bug fixes, put new features in 3.1, and then as quickly as we can get back on the develop branch with 3.1 as our release branch. So that's been our focus. So I think that menu changes, just so you'll know, the thoughts on that are, and I kind of share this view, is that I think a lot could be done with third-party add-ons, right? I don't think it's impossible to imagine that with a plugin you could add all the whiz-bang menu stuff that you want, really, because we already provide the hooks with menu modifiers and navigation nodes, etc. So I think a lot could be done with a third-party product already, a third-party plugin or whatever app. So I think that's kind of taken the heat off of the core project to re-implement menus. Also, we're kind of waiting for the dust to settle with the Treebeard replacement. I don't think we're ready to tackle a menu replacement, considering that we've only just switched over to Treebeard. But our experience so far with Treebeard has been very positive, so I don't know, maybe we'll be there before too long.
Okay.
Anybody else have any thoughts or questions? All right, so we're just slightly over an hour, so I think I'll go ahead and close this one. It is one of our shorter ones. I mean, usually they go 2 hours. But those are times when I actually have something to share with you guys, something to show, and I don't. So I would say I'll see you next month.
Okay.
Best see you next month.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.